As shark conservationists, we look forward to a future where poorly managed fisheries no longer threaten the survival of species. But sometimes that future is hard to imagine. It might seem like a long way away, given the challenges we face today. But we have seen significant progress in recent years, with more fisheries management, better protection for wildlife, and trade restrictions coming into play. So maybe, just maybe, we can imagine a future where shark populations are given the opportunity to rebuild and recover. So what might that future look like? What does it mean to have more sharks in the sea? How does it affect communities for good and for bad? We're here in the Bahamas, arguably the shark diving capital of the world and a place with a history of living with sharks. We've come to find out more about what it means for the island, its businesses, and for the tourists that visit here.
In 2011, the Bahamas became one of the first countries in the world to give sharks full legal protection, building on a long-line fishing ban that had been in place since the early 90s. Today, sharks are driving a multi-million-dollar tourism industry. But what's it actually like to live and work in a place where sharks are more than just wildlife, where they're part of your daily routine and your livelihood?
Sister Coast has been around for 40 years, so we do dive trips all year round. The sharks are here all year round. They're the main attraction, and we do our shark experience around 4 times a week. For the most part, you have people coming here just to dive.
My name is Captain Monroe. I've been doing navigation for a pretty long time. Yeah, we take boats out, we go to the various dive sites, make sure people get their value for money.
Got it? You want to see some sharks? Yeah, they are right here.
The Bahamas is a shark conservation area. It is part of our tourism attraction whereby we offer a shark dive. Not only Start Cove, a few other private people around the islands offer shark excursions. But this is one of our major, I'll say, revenue gainers within Stewart Cove, the shark dive.
They are kind of like popular here. So whenever we dive, there's a big chances of seeing a shark, and that's what makes it an even more interesting dive.
Bahamians have a very, very strange relationship with sharks. Now, in modern times, we're starting to notice their value. You know, not only do they keep our ecosystems healthy, but they also bring in a lot of money for tourism.
It's clear that sharks play a vital role in the Bahamas tourism industry, but their economic influence goes beyond that. For decades, the Bahamas has been a magnet for filmmakers.
Many people are amazed when they go to movies and they see these great underwater scenes in the Bahamas and the marine life.
Even over 100 years ago, sharks were bringing films to the Bahamas, and it's been a sort of a tradition that is carried on. In many Bond films, we've done 5 Bond films in the Bahamas, and very many of them feature sharks. And if you speak to many people who come here and do films, they come here specifically for the wildlife. They come here specifically for sharks.
I feel very privileged. I've got to travel the world filming wildlife, especially sharks. The best places that I've ever experienced them and best places to film them is right here in the Bahamas. The sanctuary here has just allowed the sharks to be celebrated instead of demonized. We always try and use all the local operators, one, because it's bringing money back into the country, but it's also their knowledge and their skill base because they live here. Bahamas is one place in the world where sharks and people really are coexisting, and the Bahamians have really taken on sharks as flagship species that help people push money into the economy as well as preserving the reefs and celebrating our oceans.
So, sharks seem to be good for business, but what about the community on the islands? How do people here feel about living close to shark-protected waters?
First of all, my name is Sir Ashley Sanders and I'm local. I'm born and raised in Bimini. This island is my home. Shark was one time eaten on this island. Nowadays, nobody catch sharks anymore. And people will get upset with you if you brought a live or a caught shark into the island here. Everybody would be up in arms against you because you killed one of the apex predators here. The sharks are very important on this island here. And we respect the sharks. In other words, we don't go swimming on certain parts of the island where we know sharks congregate. We keep away from that area. We swim, in other words, we swim on the beach side, which is on the west side of the island, but we don't swim on the east side because of the sharks. And the reason for that is that we respect the sharks. We don't go swimming in sharks at night here, and we have an industry here. We have an economy that caters to the hammerhead tourists that come here especially to swim in hammerhead. Sunday, you could bring one of them hammerhead t-shirt here for me, please. This is our t-shirt. We sell these here because that's what the sharks has done for us, is bringing us business.
I think having now the dive tourism where people can actually go see them, but it's providing jobs. And the community is now more aware that these animals are here, that they're valuable, and really kind of understanding that place that they have.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of changes from it, from all those big mega sport fish would come. They used to fish the billfish tournament, but now we have a lot of new faces that are coming over now. They come to Bimini now. It's not just the capital of fishing, but it also seems to be one of the capital of diving now. Like now, lately, you've been seeing a lot of bull sharks around, and everybody is just in their own business, minding their own business, and you know what I mean, and making the dollar, and they're quite happy. So, so that's a good thing. What's going on?
Well, the Bahamian view of the southern stingrays that are here in the Bahamas, a lot of the children going back towards their great-grandparents and grandparents, they were taught to be afraid of the stingrays because they really in those days did not know what a stingray was all about. And the reason why they became so afraid of it is before there were roads on a lot of these islands, the natives would walk from one settlement to the next along the beach. And because of their walking along the beach, they didn't know what a stingray covered in sand looked like. So inevitably they would step on it and they would get stung. And that became one of the things and one of the reasons why they were fearful. Even today in 2024, you can ask almost any Bahamian, whether they're young or older or in between, and they will tell you that no, they have this infinity of fear that this animal is going to just come to the ocean, come to the beach and aggressively pursue them, and that's never the case.
There's certainly still fear. There's fear about sharks everywhere you go. But I think through kind of education and these opportunities, particularly local community members that now work for the dive operations, they're sharing their experiences with their families. They're talking about it in the community. So we've certainly seen a shift of more people interested and excited for these animals to be here, whether they want to get in the water or not, but understanding that having them here is really, really important.
Since the introduction of protections, it seems that the cultural connection with sharks has strengthened, but there has to be more to protecting these sharks than preventing fishing. What about the wider ecosystem? How does the health of the environment impact on sharks?
Sharks are very important to encouraging ecosystems and preserving ecosystem services. When you think about sharks, they occur at many levels of the food web. They are food for many other marine resources, and they also feed on other marine resources. And I guess persons generally understand that ecological balance is absolutely necessary.
Welcome to the Bimini Shark Lab. So this is a U.S. and Bahamian nonprofit that's been in South Bimini since 1990. So these are all the juvenile lemon sharks. They basically come along these mangroves and use the sand flats for foraging, and then they come back into the mangroves during the higher tide when they need to be protected from the big predators. Yeah, so the threats to the mangroves, they're very sometimes very personal and close to home, especially here in Bimini, but it's around the world. Nearshore habitats and mangroves are some of the most imperiled ecosystems there are. They're on the same level as rainforests and things like that. The lemon sharks, their major threat isn't necessarily from directed fishing. Their major threat is actually from habitat changes and things like that. And so, for lemon sharks, it's great that there's a shark sanctuary that protects anybody from fishing for them, but that doesn't matter if they don't have a home to live in for those first few years of their life.
Coastal development is a major threat to mangroves, but extreme weather events also take their toll. In 2019, the island nation was struck by a Category 5 hurricane event, the most damaging in its history. As well as a devastating human cost, Hurricane Dorian left 60% of Grand Bahama submerged with stormwaters. Years later, mile on mile of native pine and huge swathes of vital mangrove forest are struggling to recover. Now, community projects, aware of mangrove's importance, are actively restoring this vital ecosystem, one tree at a time.
It was like 70% of this area was damaged. Some of the mangroves outright destroyed, but what we do is helping to bring it back and build it up, so that's pretty cool. In that they take that salt water and they push the salt out through their leaves. So out of all the trees in the world, the mangroves are really salt tolerant. Not that they love it, they say salt tolerant. And some of the white or black mangroves, you sometimes see the salt crystal at the back of the leaf. A lot of the species that we also have seen, a lot of turtles, crabs, like in here you'll find a lot of tiny little crabs in here. And of course, every species, like baby sharks, baby, you know.
This is a good vantage point for your shot. In addition to that, look at that. This is basically a nursery for the lemon sharks. What the Bahamas government has already done as of 2011, we try to basically magnify what they're doing to actually provide this area as a sanctuary for sharks. We don't allow no commercial fishing within our protected areas. And this is important, and actually we also do assessments to establish reef health, basically habitat health between the coral reefs, to ensure health for sharks living within these areas.
In each of these tanks, you'll see corals in several stages of the microfragmentation process. On these racks here is where it starts. These are our broodstock or coral colonies that we've collected from the ocean. They've spent time in quarantine where they're able to acclimate to this new environment, and also we've kept an eye out for diseases and pests and baddies that we don't want in our system. And these are broodstock of elkhorn coral, staghorn coral, and the hybrid between the two.
Sharks are the keepers of coral reefs. They cruise around and they prey on sick and injured fish. For us as Bahamians, that means a healthy fishery. We get to stay healthy because the sharks are picking off the fish that would otherwise harm us if we ate them. They keep everything in check from the top down. They're a keystone species, and without them, our reefs would collapse. Our economy would collapse. You have nothing to film.
So shark conservation is actually only partly about understanding sharks. It's about a wider, holistic approach, and people, communities, are a part of that jigsaw.
I think when you tell people, kids or adults, oh, they're important for the balance of an ecosystem, that's a really kind of large topic to wrap your head around because it's not something you can necessarily see. But when you tell people live sharks through ecotourism bring nearly $114 million, and it's probably more now because that study's several years old, bring that into the economy, I don't care who you are, where you're from, you can understand what money means, right? And so I think it's important to talk about both, and we need to talk about both for this to be sustainable.
As much as we need to find out or explore more the impacts of sharks in terms of protecting the environment, we need to figure out how we can get them to coexist. If we assume our management measures will work, and we know that the human population is increasing, there's a much higher chance that there will be interactions between humans and sharks.
Trying to understand human behavior is really, for a long time as kind of like shark scientists or marine scientists, we didn't always bring in this social science aspect of it, but we realize now we really have to understand that human dimension part of it, because a lot of it is actually human behavior is what's driving what's going on in the oceans.
We spend our time extolling the virtues of sharks, selling the idea of a positive future where healthy populations contribute to a healthy ocean. But there's more to it than that, because we humans, our communities and our livelihoods interact with the ocean, and we're part of a complex ecosystem. The impacts of shark protection affect different communities in different ways, and there are issues that threaten the progress of shark conservation if we ignore them or look at them through our own prism as shark conservationists. We have to engage communities, understand the challenges ahead, and come up with positive solutions. It's a lot of work, and we're already up to our neck in what needs to be done right now if we're to have any chance of achieving our positive vision. But I believe that we have to start today. Start having these conversations with communities and learning from places like the Bahamas so we can have a positive future with healthy shark populations and where people are happy living with sharks.